At Misty Knight's hideout in Brooklyn, Vulture stands face to face with Miles Morales and angrily expresses that Spider-Man is the reason a wedge was driven between Tiana and him. Spider-Man revs up for an attack and sarcastically tells him that Vulture busting through the roof to kill him definitely has nothing to do with it. Vulture tells him to shut up, saying he's just a boy who is hardly fit to wear the spider symbol on his chest, and angrily claims he knows nothing. Miles has enough of Vulture's yapping, so he locks in and punches Vulture across the face. Spider-Man can feel how swift he is in his new suit. The feeling is amazing. Spider-Man continues and tells Vulture that if he is going to be too stubborn to listen, the least they can do is fight where others won't get hurt. Vulture wipes the blood off his face with his hand and tells Spidey that he doesn't need lessons on civility from a child. He angrily launches his feathers at Spider-Man, desperately waiting for a moment to attack. Spidey dodges the feathers and thinks that Vulture has had upgrades of his own. Miles thwacks one of the feathers away with his arm and asks Vulture if that was supposed to hurt. As he readies himself to launch at Vulture, Spidey asks him if his plan is to get dog-walked by him in the park and if that will solve everything. Vulture tells him he is too cocky, and Spidey thinks to himself that the adrenaline is making him sloppy and that he really needs to lock in. That attack could really have done a number on his old suit. Spidey launches himself at Vulture and kicks him straight in the core with all of his force, while saying that Vulture is really going to hate this attack. Vulture has the breath knocked out of him and crashes inside a building. He curses at Spidey before trying to regain his composure. Spidey eggs Vulture on and asks him if he feels like they have worked through his family issues yet. Vulture gets angry and tells Spidey to shut up again. He launches his feathers at Spidey in an attempt to bring him down, but he fails. Spidey tells him that his aim is getting bad due to his old age, but Vulture retorts and says he wasn't aiming for Spidey in the first place. He was aiming for the structure supporting the roof of the building. Misty and Dr. Quan are about to be seriously injured by the rubble crashing down. Spidey speeds to save them, but manages to save only Misty. Dr. Quan gets stuck in the rubble. Miles rushes to her, and she assures him she is not seriously injured. Amused by her state, Miles asks her to share her workout routine. She coughs and tells him it must be his lucky day. As Spidey pulls her out of the rubble, she says they are definitely going to unpack this in their next session. Spidey helps Misty and Tiana and asks them if they are alright. Tiana seems to be okay, but Misty isn't doing so well. She's not too happy that Vulture put a hole through her roof. She is very pissed, and Spidey apologizes to everyone, saying he is sorry for causing this and putting them in danger. Tiana tells Spidey they can talk about this later and that his main focus should be on Vulture right now. Suddenly, Vulture speaks up and tells Spidey they are not done yet. With great speed, Vulture grabs Spidey and leaves the place, telling him he was stupid for ever turning his back on him. "Note taken," says Spidey as he struggles to get out of Vulture's grasp. Vulture yells at Miles, telling him that he is the reason Tiana is alone and the reason they have been pulled apart. He constantly blames Miles for their parting. Miles shoves Vulture off him and tells Vulture that he is the villain and that this isn't Miles' fault. As they struggle for power over each other midair, Vulture thwacks his leg into Miles and tells him that he is the worst kind of monster, the kind who convinces himself he is one of the good guys. Meanwhile, Miles is really putting his new suit to the test by consistently being beaten. Vulture tells Spidey that less than an hour ago, he was ready to take a bite out of his neck, and he asks Spidey what will stop him from doing that to Tiana. Spidey says he would never do that. As they fight, they crash into yet another building, with Miles slowly losing his composure. As he sits there trying to make sense of what's happening, Spidey tells Vulture that he has never claimed to be the perfect boyfriend, but Vulture is out of his mind if he thinks Spidey would intentionally hurt her. Vulture couldn't care less. He feels these are just empty words from a child who knows nothing. Spidey says that, on the other hand, it seems Vulture has no problem putting Tiana at risk when he is so blinded by rage. Vulture tells Spidey that this isn't even rage, it's just an appetizer, and Spidey hasn't even seen the full extent of Vulture's anger. As Vulture dashes towards Spidey, Spidey thinks that Vulture is so full of anger he can't even think. He has no concern for strategy or logic, he's just out for blood. Spidey, on the other hand, is happy to say that his suit has finally given him the clarity to see through that bloodlust, allowing him to set up a perfect attack. Using his judo skills, he slams Vulture into the ground. Vulture calls Spidey a foolish boy as he bleeds. The sight of blood coming from Vulture makes Spidey want to stop in his tracks, waiting for the bloodlust to take control at any moment. But then he remembers what Black Panther said. Venom energy keeps the infection at bay, and Spidey's new suit channels it. All he has to do is find the perfect place to direct it. Vulture, my guy, you picked a hell of a night to pick a fight, says Spidey as he locks in, a bright aura surrounding him. Vulture is shocked to see this, and Miles finds it amazing. Spidey launches Vulture into the ground and uses his spiderwebs to attack him. It's vibranium mesh webbing, and it's harder to cut. Spidey pulls Vulture in closer to give him a better look. Spidey asks Vulture if he knows the difference between them. He continues, saying the difference is that Spidey has accepted that he has changed, that his body and mind can be a danger to those around him if he doesn't keep himself in check. Because the only thing that scares him more than being undead is the thought of hurting the people closest to him. As he dodges Vulture's feathers, Spidey adds that a mutual friend of theirs once said, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." And every day, Spidey wakes up and puts that lesson into practice. Sticking to the roof, Spidey looks at Vulture, who tells him he refuses to take life lessons from any of the spider fools. As Vulture launches more attacks at the roof, Spidey falls down and blames himself for not anticipating this just like last time. As Spidey regains his composure, Vulture suggests they see which lasts longer, Spidey's fancy suits or Vulture's wings. Vulture uses his wings to slice open Spidey's suits with all his might, but Spidey focuses and revs up for an attack. Vulture tells Spidey that his heart, ripped from his chest, would pay for turning Vulture's own blood against him. As Spidey attacks Vulture, a familiar voice speaks up, asking Vulture, after all those years he watched her grow up, what made him think she couldn't fight her own battles. Tiana, with great animosity, uses her knee to attack Vulture's core. This startles everyone on the scene, including Spider-Man. Vulture slams to the ground, and Spidey admits that Tiana really knows how to make an entrance. Tiana tells Spidey not to joke and reminds him he is still on her list. Vulture tells Tiana she doesn't know what she's doing, but she firmly replies that she does. Vulture isn't too happy that Tiana is really choosing Spidey over him, her own blood. Tiana corrects Vulture and tells him she's choosing herself over him. Vulture doesn't want to listen to any of this. He doesn't understand how, after all Tiana has been through and all he has done to do right by her, she could feel this way. Tiana can't believe she has to tell Vulture that a lot of wrongs don't make a right. Vulture decides Tiana needs to be taught a lesson. He launches towards her, telling her that all he ever wanted was to make things better for her, to make things right, and Spidey has robbed him of that. Tiana tells him the only person who took anything from her is Vulture himself when he lied to her, deceived her, and tried to buy her and her mom's love with his blood money. As Tiana kicks him hard across the abdomen, Vulture says he only did what he did so she could live a good life. Tiana retorts, telling him the only person he should blame is himself. She slaps him, and he sends his feathers flying at her, yelling that she is ungrateful and knows nothing about sacrifice. Tiana gets injured, and Vulture realizes what he has done. He says sorry and tells her he didn't mean to do this. Tiana tells him that an illusion isn't a good life, it's just a lie. She thwacks him across the face and shouts out to Spidey to help her. Tiana asks her grandfather if he truly thinks the families of the people he hurt is any less important than his own. She kicks him again, and he apologizes. Tiana cries and sniffles, saying, "Me too," before sending her grandfather crashing down. Spidey tries to help Tiana, but she tells him she's got this. She confronts her grandfather, saying she knows Vulture thinks he tried to do right by her and her mom, that he picked up the slack of her deadbeat dad and his son after he ditched his family. But all Vulture did was cage them in another house built on lies. She tells him he is out of her life, and she doesn't want to see him darken her doorstep again. She tells him he needs to understand that this is no one's fault but his own. Vulture admits he is wrong and asks his beloved granddaughter if she would ever forgive him. She says she won't. She needs him to look her in the eyes and understand that if he ever comes to her again, she will bring something more serious than a tranquilizer gun. Vulture's face is full of sorrow. He tells Tiana that he still loves her and always will. Nothing will ever change that. Tiana tells him she doesn't need his love. She needs trust. She also tells him that if she can't find the love she needs, she will find a flock of her own. As her grandfather prepares to leave, he reminds Tiana again that he loves her, and as he flies away, he tells her that maybe one day she will find it in herself to let him back into her life. Spidey doesn't know what to say or do while Tiana is crying, but he tells her to let it out as he hugs her. Spidey also tells her that he's sorry for everything. He admits that he should have found a better way to handle Vulture, but when he saw the blood, he didn't know what to do. Tiana says that if a member of her family is a killer supervillain, Spidey needs to help. Spidey kisses Tiana and she tells him that she still loves her grandpa and probably always will, but she doesn't have to like him or let him into her life. She needs to protect herself. Spidey understands, and the duo is startled when they hear a voice above them. It's Black Panther. He comforts Tiana and tells her not to worry too much. He then alerts the duo that they have to go on a trip, and they have very little time to delay.